This video might be the most critical piece of information you consume this decade. What I am about to explain is the exact roadmap of the global paradigm shift we are living through right now. Pay attention to the mechanics of what I'm about to show you, because once you see the math behind the curtain, you will finally understand exactly where we are heading. In January 2025, the price of gold was roughly $2,600 an ounce. Fast forward a year and we saw it violently spike. But then, just months later, it plummeted by nearly 23%. A drop of that magnitude doesn't just shake national economies. It sends shockwaves through the very foundation of global finance. And yet, if you watch the news, nobody seems to be able to explain why. You have millions of videos, thousands of analysts, and a constant stream of contradictory noise. Buy gold, sell the dollar, buy real estate, buy farmland. To survive the chaos of this decade, you must understand one fundamental truth. The events unfolding right now haven't happened in the last 100 years. In fact, the economic forces at play haven't aligned this way in a millennia. Gold, the ultimate safe haven for thousands of years, is suddenly behaving like a volatile tech stock. Global institutions are quietly warning of systemic liquidity crises. The geopolitical chessboard is being flipped over. But why? Is this just random political chaos? No. It is a highly calculated mathematical inevitability. Today, I am going to deconstruct the architecture of the new world we are accelerating toward. We are going to look past the political theater and examine the hard physics of money, energy, and global debt. To understand the future, we have to engineer the concept of value. Why are human beings biologically and psychologically programmed to view gold as a safe haven? It's not just because it's shiny. It's because for centuries, gold was the anchor of reality. It was the physical limitation on human greed. In the modern era, this was codified after World War II through the Bretton Woods Agreement. The global financial system was built on a spine of gold. The US dollar was directly tethered to it. In 1970, if you had a $100 bill, it wasn't just paper. It was a receipt for a specific physical weight of gold held in a vault. But in 1971, the architecture was fundamentally altered. The Nixon shock severed the tie between the dollar and gold. This was the moment humanity decoupled money from the laws of physics. Currency became an illusion. It became fiat, valuable only because the government says it is, and because we all collectively agree to hallucinate its value. So, in times of crisis, human psychology naturally reverts to the physical anchor. When the system shakes, people run to gold. But here is the paradox that is confusing every analyst today. If we are surrounded by global conflict, inflation, and fear, why did gold recently drop 25%? Why isn't it skyrocketing linearly? To answer this, you have to understand who actually owns the board. If you look at the raw data, there are roughly 205,000 tons of gold that have been mined in human history. Central banks and governments hold about 17% of this. Tech and industrial sectors hold another 15%. That leaves over 60% in the hands of private citizens as jewelry and private investments. Logically, 1 + 1 = 2. You would think the people control the market. But economic physics doesn't work that way. Private ownership is fragmented, disorganized, and dispersed. Central banks, however, operate as unified, massive gravitational bodies. They can dump 500 tons into the market in a fraction of a second and absorb 2,000 tons the next week. But the real secret? The vast majority of gold traded daily isn't physical gold. Welcome to the world of paper derivatives. We trade trillions of dollars in gold contracts every single day. It is digits on a screen. If everyone holding a paper gold contract demanded their physical delivery today, the system would instantly implode because the physical metal does not exist to back it up. This means the price of gold isn't determined by physical supply and demand anymore. It's determined by institutional algorithms trading phantom assets. The lines outside the local jewelry store do not move the global needle. This brings us to the core engine of the global crisis. The concept of the Great Reset isn't some internet conspiracy theory. It is a mathematical certainty rooted in the physics of compound interest. Let's look at the actual numbers. The gross domestic product, GDP, of the entire planet, the sum total of every car manufactured, every software sold, every grain of wheat harvested in a single year, is roughly $105 trillion. The total global debt is over $300 trillion. We live in a world that is leveraged 3-to-1 against reality. Imagine you own a business that makes $1,000 a year, but you owe $3,000 in high-interest loans. As long as everything is perfect, you can barely make the minimum payments. But the moment you get sick for a week, or a machine breaks, your business collapses. The planet is that business. The United States debt is over 120% of its GDP. Japan is over 200%. We have built a global civilization where debt is paid off by issuing more debt. The system is a runaway train, and the track is running out. Throughout history, when the gap between real production and phantom debt becomes this large, nature forces a correction. In the 1930s, it was the Great Depression, which fundamentally redrew the political map. In the 1970s, it was the inflationary crisis that birthed the fiat system. Today, we are facing the end of the fiat debt supercycle. You cannot solve a physics problem by printing paper. Because while money is an illusion, energy is absolute. We can print trillions of dollars, but we cannot print a barrel of oil. The global economy is a biological organism, and fossil fuels are the bloodstream. Despite what the media tells you about green energy transitions, oil and gas still account for the vast majority of the energy that keeps humans alive. They power the tractors that harvest our food, the ships that transport our goods, and the grids that keep our hospitals running. This brings us to the geopolitical chess matches we are watching today. The Strait of Hormuz, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. These are the arteries of the planet. If these narrow choke points are disrupted, you don't just get more expensive gas, you get an immediate cascading failure of global supply chains. A disruption in energy logistics translates directly into a global food crisis. This is why the friction between the United States, China, and regional powers isn't random. It is a calculated struggle for control over the absolute physical realities of the Earth before the financial illusions collapse. What we are witnessing is the classic Thucydides Trap, a historical pattern where an established ruling power is challenged by a rising power. The United States has engineered the global order for nearly a century through the power of the dollar. But that power relies on the rest of the world needing the dollar to buy oil and trade goods. China, recognizing the mathematical vulnerability of the US debt machine, is systematically building a parallel architecture. They are hoarding physical gold. They are securing energy agreements with oil-producing nations. They are trading in non-dollar currencies across Asia and Africa. The political noise you see, from tariffs to regional conflicts, are proxy battles in this massive structural shift. It is an economic Cold War designed to transition the world into a multipolar system. When politicians talk about a reset, they aren't reading from a movie script. They are acknowledging that the old operating system of the global economy is obsolete and unstable. The transition to the new system will be volatile. Wealth tied to digital illusions will evaporate, but wealth tied to physical reality, commodities, energy, and human ingenuity will remain. There is a lot of noise on the internet right now. People are diving into theories about lost continents, hidden histories, and dystopian end times. Let me ground you in reality. You don't need to look for hidden maps to understand what's happening. The truth is much more profound, and it is happening right in front of us. We are living through the birth pangs of a new era. And yes, history shows us that the transition between eras is never quiet. It is chaotic. The systems that governed the 20th century are tearing at the seams. But this is not a reason for fear. It is a reason for intense, focused awakening. If you understand that the $300 trillion debt is an illusion, you stop letting financial anxiety control you. If you understand that paper assets can vanish, but physical reality remains, you start investing your time and energy into things that are real. Your skills, your adaptability, your psychological resilience, your community. In a world where digital wealth can be wiped out by a server crash or a hyperinflationary spiral, the most valuable asset on Earth is human consciousness. The person who knows how to adapt, how to critically think, and how to stay grounded when the masses panic, that person is untouchable. Do not be distracted by the political theatre designed to keep you afraid and compliant. Recognize the math. Understand the cycles. The world isn't ending, it is just changing its operating system. Make sure you are writing your own code and not just acting as a variable in someone else's algorithm. If this analysis clarified the noise for you, share it. Leave a comment below with what you think the next logical move on the geopolitical chessboard will be. The clock is ticking, and the paradigm is shifting. I'll see you in the next one.